Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1995 animated classic, A Goofy Movie. Now, Goofy Movie is honestly one of my favorite Disney films, and honestly one of the better animated films to me personally. It's a film that I not only grew up with, but it's also a movie that I think holds up really well. I think it's a film that is not just held up by nostalgia. I think it's a movie that has some good writing, some nice characterization, as well as some very memorable tunes and songs and good voiceover work. It's a film that, to me personally, has a lot going for it, and it is so much better than it has any right being. Considering the fact that this was a film that Disney only made due to a contractual obligation. If Disney could have gotten out of making this movie, they would have they would have picked that path. But they were contractually obligated to do it, so they just begrudgingly gave the film a budget and put it together and gave it a theatrical release. This easily could have been something that could have been half-assed, could have been an animated film that didn't have that much effort put into it, but instead it turned into a really significant cult hit for the studio and turned into a film that a lot of 90s kids grew up with. So it's intended to be a sequel to Goof Troop. And what's funny is I remember watching maybe a little bit of Goof Troop, but I only really started watching Goof Troop after seeing a Goofy movie. Because before, I was more into Darkwing Duck or DuckTales or Tailspin or Gargoyles or even something like Bonkers. I wasn't really into Goof Troop as much, but I really liked a Goofy movie, so that's why I decided to check the series out whenever there would be reruns on Disney Channel growing up. And of course, another one that I remember more is Rescue Rangers. But yeah, Goof Troop's fun, but I definitely would say I like a Goofy movie more than anything that I've seen from Goof Troop. I think one of the main reasons for that is I just like the teenager Max more than the younger Max from that series. And this is a film that was also a launching platform for director Kevin Lima. Before A Goofy Movie, he had worked on a lot of different animated projects, including a lot of different films from Disney's Renaissance, as well as outside of it, like A Chipmunk Adventure and so on. In fact, one of the first credits on his filmography is actually a Goofy short, which I think is really fitting that one of his first ever directorial efforts, if not his first ever directorial effort, is a Goofy movie. And one of his first credits was working on a Goofy short. And I think the fact that you have a director who is really game and really wants to prove themselves and really wants to show what they're capable of is something that this film really has in its favor, because that leads to direction and animation and energy and just vitality and life that is present from the first frame all the way till the last, because you have a director who wants to make a name in the animation industry. He wants to use this film as a platform to enable him to get other opportunities. And that's what led him to getting a chance to direct Tarzan, which I think is also one of Disney's more underrated animated efforts. Sadly, he didn't even actually fully direct Tarzan. There was some other guy who co-directed it, and then afterwards he didn't really go on to do as much, which is really disappointing. Like he did The Wild, which didn't do that well, and he still got work, but he didn't really get the same opportunities. And it's a shame because when you see what he showcased here, it was something special. I think the film has a really great, consistent tone to it when it comes to its visual style and its flair. It's got a lot of goofy silliness, which is something that is very much in Goofy's DNA, but it also has a certain 90s sensibility to it, a certain modern sensibility to it, at least to the time, that makes it so it's not just a over the top cartoon. Like there are some more grounded moments. There are some other elements with the animation that really really do tie into something that goes beyond just goofy, silly antics. It goes into something that's much more raw, much more human in a lot of ways. And there's also a certain dark tone to it at times where even though it's like rated G, there's a lot of elements visually that feel like something that is trying to really push the boundaries of a G rating. Because like the opening scene is straight out of a horror film. It's a sequence where Max is having a nightmare where he's transforming into his father, like an American Werewolf in London or something, or some kind of old horror movie. And it's animated and directed and just set up like one of those old vintage horror films with the lightning flashes and everything. And it's a really dynamic, strong way to open the film. And the movie has a lot of just really dynamic, strong animation throughout it. That just it has a lot of consistent energy to it and life and just verve. And it's just a really fun film to watch visually because of that. You have the stuff with Max and his whole musical number stand out. You got the whole Powerline concert that he was trying to do at the school, and then you have the actual Powerline concert that concludes the film. Prior to that, you have the stuff where Goofy and Max are going on the open road, and you have that whole sequence. Uh, Even the whole Possum Pal scene and the whole sequence in the woods with Bigfoot, or the whole scene with the car and how it gets lost in the river, and all of this stuff is just shot in a way that it just has a lot of energy to it, and it's a really fun film to watch just for the way the animation is put together, the way that Kevin Lima frames his shots, the way that he just um, pulls his animation talents and his experience and just puts it all together and just creates a very satisfying looking film. Has the right vibe to it, but there's also a little bit about it that makes it feel a little bit more irreverent at times. It makes it kind of stand out a little bit more from Goof Troop or from other Goofy shorts or even other Disney films at the time. So yeah, I can't sing enough praises for Kevin Lima when it comes to his direction. Now, the script I also think is really good by Jimin Magan, Chris Matheson, and Brian Pimentel. Chris Matheson's a name you might recognize if you're a film fan. Chris Matheson was one of the writers for Bill and Ted. And you get a little bit of that kind of fun Bill and Ted feel with this script in terms of like the way that the teenagers are written and so on and so forth. And I really like this script. I think this script is genuinely funny and witty at times. Although there are some moments where, you can definitely tell that they're trying to lean a little bit too hard into a catchphrase or a certain character, like the stuff with Pauly Shore's character in the film, who was using the marketing a lot and so on. which makes sense because it's Pauly Shore. But yeah, the Bobby character and the Leaning Tower of Cheesa and all that, like it kind of went a little bit too hard on that. But the stuff with Max and his father Goofy, I think is honestly uh, relatable, and it's funny at times because of that, but then it's also genuinely kind of sad and kind of pulls at your heartstrings when it comes to the whole dynamic and relationship between Goofy and his son Max. And there is just a way of writing these characters. It just makes them come to life in a way that not they never really did before. Where with Goofy, in a lot of the Goofy shorts, yeah, he was a likable character, but he was a buffoon and he was a goof, and that was the whole shtick. And they didn't really go that much further with the character. And here, you really see him as someone that you actually sympathize with and you can relate to when it comes to a father who just wants to do what's best for his son but doesn't know necessarily the best way to handle it, and the only way for him to really get that experience is for him to try and to fail, and then through those failures he's able to find a way to succeed to connect with his son. And at the same time Max also has to find a way to connect with his father on a deeper level too, and the way that it's written, the two really come to that conclusion in a very satisfying and heartwarming way. And I do like the way that it incorporates other characters, even Goofy's rival Pete. The whole the differences between Pete's way of parenting and Goofy's way of parenting. Uh, PJ, Pete's son, and how they write him. I like that. It was a nice contrast to Max and his father, Goofy, and their relationship with one another. But definitely the other major standout other than Goofy and Max is without a doubt Roxanne, and the very cute and just very memorable love story that buds between Max and Roxanne. They make a very cute couple. The script does a good job with these two and showcasing their various insecurities and their shyness and how they initially are not so sure about one another, or they're not confident enough, and it just makes for a very memorable love story. And the two are a really great pair, and they don't just make a cute couple, they have some really good chemistry and some really great moments together. And that really makes a lot of the film ultimately tie together, because it's really about Max trying to find a way to get the girl despite dealing with his goof father, and in the process also learning to embrace and just appreciate the things that he's obtained and received from his dad. And it's him getting over things like the goofy laugh and so on and so forth, and not feeling so ashamed about his heritage and where he comes from. It's crazy that in a goofy movie you have all these very human, deep, and relatable emotions and arcs, and it's all also tied in around a vacation movie, like something like straight out of National Lampoon, with the whole Vacation from Hell or the Vacation Gone Awry. And there are moments of dark humor thrown in there that are really surprising, like the whole Open Road musical. And there's a whole sequence where a hearse drives by, and the the pallbearers, they're singing, and so is the funeral director. And then a dead body starts breaking out in song. And then at the end of the whole number, the dead body's even dancing. Like that's some really dark stuff for a Disney movie at the time. And it's really surprising. Even some of the stuff with Bigfoot has its own charms to it as well. Um, and for the most part, I think this is a great script. Even the whole strife or the whole bits of drama with Max changing the map and Goofy being proud of his son and trusting his son, and then the realizing that his son lied to him, and then that whole frustration and just that crushing disappointment. uh all of that is very realized in a way that is very strong and just feels very human. I keep repeating that, but that's really a good way to sum it up, because it's one of those things where, like, how is a film like this just so much better about showing a father and son dynamic in a relatable and human way compared to a film that features real actors and real people. And what I mean by real actors is, actors who are not just doing voiceover work. I'm not trying to insinuate that voice actors aren't real actors. They are, but definitely in a different way, and in a different capacity. But yeah, I was just really surprised by how strong this script was. The only things that I feel this script doesn't quite nail is the ending in a little bit, because I really do feel that a lot of the film is building up to Goofy and Max finding a way to get to the Powerline concert in Los Angeles. And they just get to the concert way too easily. And it just felt like something that was an afterthought in terms of the overall journey. And I felt that was a little bit of a letdown. I kind of felt like it was one of those things where the writers were under a time crunch, and they didn't have any more time to really add more to the finale and build up to the concert better, because it felt like something that was rushed. And I don't know if that's 100% true or not, but that's just how it came across to me. Because after the whole stuff with the vacation gone just upside down with the Bigfoot stuff and the car in the river and all of this other, and Goofy and Max at each other's throats, but then uh ultimately bonding again, and Max saving his father from falling into the waterfall, and then they just sneak into the concert venue like really easily, and then they get on stage, and then they do their dance, and then they go home, and Max gets a girl, and that's it. So it just felt a little, it definitely felt rushed. And that's really the only problem I have with the script, other than some of the moments where it just leans a bit too hard into Pauly Shore's shtick for my tastes, or some of the stuff with PJ and his dad, because there were a lot of elements with PJ and Pete and their relationship, and how Pete kept telling Goofy to keep his son under his thumb like he does with PJ, but that's not really necessarily brought up again later on, which I felt that was kind of either unresolved or underutilized when it comes to the drama with that. But other than those few things, I think it's a really good script, especially for what a film that really was an afterthought for the studio. Now, as good as the script is, as good as the direction is, like, everything really could not have been brought to the highest level without the right voice cast. And I feel Jason Marsden was just magnificent. I thought he was just really quite something else as Max. He was believably cool, despite having this hard exterior at times and being having a little bit of the annoying teenage attitude. He didn't overdo it. There was still a certain humility to his character and to his voiceover work with Max that really made him a likable character. And Bill Farmer, to me, is a quintessential Goofy voice. Bill Farmer he's just such a great Goofy, just captures everything about that character that makes that character so beloved, but also adds his own touch to Goofy, and really does he makes Goofy into a character that is honestly one of the most resonating Disney characters. Like if you think about it, like Donald Duck has his moments. Mickey Mouse, of course, is the one a lot of people remember. But how often have you seen a Mickey Mouse cartoon or a Mickey Mouse film where his character feels fleshed out and feels very real and relatable and honestly comes across very human, and that doesn't happen very often. And I think Bill Farmer is a big reason why Goofy comes across that way because he's a very talented voice actor, and he just brings out the goofiness, the goofy laugh and the silly pratfalls and Goofy's just over the top sincerity, but he also brings in a certain bit of balance to the performance that is very palpable. Rob Paulsen, I also thought did a good job as PJ, especially like the moments between him and Max. Jim Cummings is always a treat as Pete. He's just you could tell that he's just having a ball playing this just gruff, obnoxious character who is in a lot of ways just a total douche, to put it lightly. But there's also a certain aspect to this character where it's kind of like, he kind of has a point. Like he's the kind of guy where you're like, this guy is a total dick. I don't like him, but at times he's kind of got a point, and he honestly does feel like he's necessary. It's like a necessary evil. Kellie Martin was just marvelous herself as Roxanne. Just loved her voiceover work as that character. Really brought that character to life. Brought a lot of extra perk to the character in terms of just her energy and her charisma. And loved the scenes between her and Jason Marsden. They were just too cute for words. And Pauly Shore, for what he's there for, is okay, I guess. Wallace Shawn, the inconceivable guy from Princess Bride, he's in this as the principal. Frank Welker voices Bigfoot. They also have Jenna Von Oy, who plays Stacy, Roxanne's best friend, who ultimately winds up with Pauly Shore's character Bobby by the end of the movie. You also have a few other voice actors and actresses. Joey Lawrence voices a very brief character named Chad. Julie Brown voiced one of the characters. Um, and there's even like a fun little cameo from Wayne Allwine, who voices Mickey Mouse in the cameo appearance where he's seen hitchhiking with Donald Duck on the side of the road. But yeah, good cast. And also features some excellent editing by Gregory Perler. I think the editing is another reason why this film just has such a great sense of energy to it, and just electricity. Like it's very electric film when it comes to the frames and it comes to the animation, when it comes to different sequences like dance numbers and the open road number and just the chaos of the whole vacation. And the music by Carter Burwell is also pretty good. I would say it's not one of his best ever, but it's it's decent. It fits the film well. But when it comes to music, like the bigger standout is the songs that are on the soundtrack, whether it's of course the Powerline songs, which are instant earworms that have been bouncing around in my brain for decades ever since I first saw this film when I was a kid. Eye to Eye and Stand Out. If we listen to each other's hearts, we'll find we're never too far apart. And maybe love is a reason why, for the first time ever, we're seeing it eye to eye. Yeah, I really love that song. I definitely don't do Tevin Campbell justice, but yeah, great song. And Standout's a good one too. And even some of the other songs, like On the Open Road, I enjoy. I also like the song with Max and Goofy when they're stranded on top of the car in the river. Um, yeah, it's a good soundtrack with a lot of good songs. And the film's got a good pace to it. I mean, it's only 78 minutes, and that's with the end credits, so it goes by at a really quick pace, almost too quick. That kind of ties into my point earlier about how it feels like it's a little bit rushed at times, because it feels like it could have had maybe 10 more minutes. And I would have been fine with that because I really like these characters. I was really enjoying the world and the animation and the way that these characters were interacting with other people in this world. And I really liked the tone and the whole vibe of everything. So I would have been totally fine if there was more because it was such a charming and just enjoyable watch. But anyway, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it except if you were kind of leery about it or never really checked it out because of the fact that it's a goofy movie and it's rated G, I would recommend giving it a watch sometime. I think it's definitely one of the better kids movies, definitely one of the better animated films, and definitely a hell of a lot better than a lot of animated movies today, and definitely a film that is of higher quality than what Disney is churning out nowadays. It's sad that a film that Disney basically only made because they were forced to is better than the majority of films that they didn't have contractual obligations to make nowadays. But anyway, that's my review of a goofy movie, and until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.